Welcome in, everyone, to Redacted on this Monday. It's one of those crazy Mondays. Hey, everyone, I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris.
And yes, I saw someone in the chat just a moment ago say the arrest of the founder of Telegram is the big story. And oh boy, are we going to cover that on the show today.
Yes, it is. We are going to get to that and whether or not the United States had a hand in it. Were they acting alone or were they doing the bidding of Israel? We're going to talk about that. And this story, I'm going to say, is more upsetting than a lot of stories I've seen in a long time because it feels like we are collectively under assault.
We are, and I just saw it moments ago, and we have to verify this. I'm trying to verify it with our friends at Rumble right now. The founder of Rumble just leaving Europe, Chris Pavlovsky, just leaving Europe under fears that they might be coming after Rumble next. And so, yeah, I'm going to try to get confirmation on that from our friends at Rumble. But this really is a scary time, absolutely scary time for free speech and what these powers that be, the deep state, is doing to try to censor shows like ours, to try to censor truth that's out there on these social media platforms. We wouldn't know half of what we know without some of these Telegram channels, X channels, and so forth being reported in the world. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the American election. And will we have a free and fair election in the United States? Colonel Douglas Macgregor has just penned a great new piece about the Uniparty, Republicans and Democrats, and how they've sort of papered over the real trouble that the United States is facing right now. So Colonel Macgregor is going to join us in moments here on the show.
We're also going to talk about new laws in the United Kingdom about misogyny, that the UK government says they're going to root out misogyny because they're looking for these extremists online. Well, isn't that a free protected speech? Jim Ferguson is going to join us to talk about that as well.
We're also going to talk about Italy because Italy is about to explode. Yes, multiple volcanoes getting ready to erupt in Italy. And it's very interesting. Well, first of all, this has been foretold for many, many years, and we'll talk about that and how it's been foretold, but also the mixed signals that the Italian government is sending to its people right now. Like, if I were in charge, I know it's not a favorable thing, but if I was like the mayor of Naples or southern Italy, I would be telling everyone, get out right now. Get as far away from Italy as you possibly can, and yet the government is encouraging things to be built and people to move to this region. It makes absolutely no sense. So we're going to talk about Italy about to explode on today's show. But first, we want to talk about our newsletter. It's totally free.
That's right. It's a busy week, but we can always keep you informed with our newsletter at redacted.inc. It's totally free to subscribe. You go to redacted.inc, put in your email address, and it is a free subscription. I promise you, free means free. In this instance, there's no way that we upsell you or cross-sell you. You get it every day, and it's a great way to know what we're going to talk about on the show later in the day. Also, we try very hard to make sure you have links to original sources, not opinion pieces or spin, because we want you to be educated and informed for yourself. So again, you can find it. It's totally free. It's fun, about as fun as geopolitics can be. That's what we aim for anyway. So find it for yourself at redacted.inc. Once again, free newsletter, redacted.inc.
Well, is it possible to have a free and fair election in the United States? Hearing that the feds are now preparing for civil unrest if a Trump victory happens in November. We're seeing the dust now settling from both major parties' conventions, the RNC and the DNC. And now, of course, the real sprint begins before the November election. Colonel Douglas Macgregor has just written a great new piece about how both of these parties have basically papered over the real problems in the United States. And as we often talk about here on this show, there is a uniparty, whether you want to believe it or not, in the United States. And Colonel Douglas Macgregor has said he doesn't believe we would have a free and fair election, maybe even an election at all as we head into November. He said that for months now, and he joins us to talk about that and so much more. Colonel, great to see you. Welcome back to the show. Always great to have you here. I really enjoyed your new piece. What was the impetus for you to write this piece? And maybe you can give our audience a little understanding of the context there.
Well, I like a lot of Americans, watch both conventions. And, you watch because you hope that there will be some substance to them, that at some point real policy issues will be discussed. There will be some debates on the floor. People will vote a novel idea for or against a particular candidate. Of course, none of that happened. And both of these looked like staged events. There might as well have been college graduations, with the valedictorians have already been selected and everybody congratulates the valedictorian. We listen to the speech, which is largely boilerplate nonsense, and we walk away happy. Well, that essentially is what's happened. I don't think everybody's happy. I think a lot of Americans have real questions about the whole thing. Now, that's one of the reasons I wrote it. I'm sick of the glitz and glamour and would like some substance. Second reason is, and this is emphasized very recently by this man, Mohammed El-Arian. He gave an interview within the last 48 hours about the state of the economy. And he said something that's very interesting, which I tried to argue in the essay. He said the people in the United States that earn less than $50,000 a year, and you'd be surprised how large that population is in the United States right now. They have been suffering for some time the consequences of inflation and malpractice in Washington. But now the pain that they have been enduring is migrating upwards into the upper middle class and even to those who are now millionaires. In other words, the dramatic rise in the price of food, 21%. The dramatic rise in mortgage rates to 7%, the rise in rents, the rise in car loans being forfeited and cars being retaken by the owners, the dealers. All of this is coming together in a very bad way, but nobody during these conventions seemed to be remotely cognizant of it. And they made promises to everybody. We'll give you a better life, low inflation. Excuse me. Everything will be cheaper in the future than it is today. Of course, how do you do that? The president can't wave a magic wand and ensure that everybody does exactly what he wants. That's nonsense. And there are forces that really aren't in our control economically. And so this business of migrating upwards means that the economic pain, is being felt more broadly than just at the lower end of the spectrum. This also signals this imminent decline of the United States in terms of economic prosperity and standard of living. Now, you put that together with this bellicose foreign policy that has tried desperately to start a war with Russia over the last 2.5 years. You add to it now the determination in Israel and with Mr. Netanyahu to start a major regional war in the Middle East. And you see that in response to his demands, we've moved more than half the United States Navy over there, along with a substantial portion, if not most, of the United States Air Force's capabilities. So we're poised. We're ready. We're ready to pull the trigger. What happens when you combine the economic fragility of the country with wars that we have no business fighting and are unlikely to win outright? And then lastly, there's this issue of social cohesion. And this is something nobody talks about. Everybody takes it for granted that, oh, we're solid, we're great. No, we're not. How many people inside the United States describe themselves simply as Americans versus the numbers of people that describe themselves as something else first and then American. And beyond that, we have millions and millions and millions, over 50 million people who were not born in this country inside the United States. So social cohesion, which is really the foundation for everything you do in a society, is at an all-time low. This, to me, spells imminent disaster. And yet nobody wants to address it. The intelligent move would be retrenchment, pull back, make peace, you fools, and start focusing on the United States, secure your borders, restore the rule of law. That's how you reinforce national identity. That's how you rebuild your society. What are we doing? The opposite.
What do you make of these reports that the federal government, state and local governments are preparing for massive civil unrest in the United States?
I think they probably are. And I think a certain amount of civil unrest is unavoidable. The only difference between my views of this civil unrest and others is that others think in terms of a civil war. I don't see it as a civil war. What I see is essentially the cities, the large urban areas populated by people who are comfortable with this current government. And then the rest of the country, once you move outside these large cities, which are hardcore support structures for the left, you find the rest of the American people. These are the people that say, no, I don't like this. I'm not profiting. I'm not benefiting. I don't want to live under the control of these populations. And unfortunately, when you look at elections and fraudulent voting, which is practically institutionalized now in at least half the states, where does it happen? It happens in those urban areas. If you think
Right.
you're going to go into Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and impose legal standards in accordance with the rule of law for voting, you're out of your mind. There
I mean,
are
it's
places
laughable.
in Dallas and Houston are the same way, and New Orleans. I mean, come on, it's crazy.
It's laughable. I mean, I almost laugh out loud. If you were to ask most Americans, do you think you're going to get a free and fair election in Philadelphia? For crying out loud, the amount of corruption. I mean, look, that's my home city, but Chicago, I mean, you take your pick. To your point, I don't think any American believes that there'd be free and fair elections in those cities at all. It's terrifying. And you've said, we were not going to have free and fair elections as we head into this fall. What do you anticipate is going to happen on Election Day? I mean, the early voting starts, it's imminent.
It's already begun, hasn't it? In some areas, I don't know.
In some areas, they've done.
Yeah, listen, this is crazy nonsense. The Uniparty has done everything in its power to undermine the legality of voting, to make voting a joke. I think it was several years ago when Trump was actually elected, I listened to someone get on the radio, and he said he was in Alexandria, Virginia, and he was a Russian visiting the United States, either Russian or Ukrainian, I can't remember which. And he pointed out that he had voted in the election.
What?
And somebody said, well, how did you do that? He said, well, he spoke excellent English. He said, I walked in. I said, this is where I live. I have a driver's license. Okay, you're good. And I think we're going to see a repetition of this nonsense. And of course, he was appalled. He couldn't believe it. And he said, you Americans are allowing foreigners, people with no ties to your country whatsoever, to decide the outcome of these elections. Why would you do that? Doesn't make any sense. He thought we were nuts. Well, he was quite correct in 2016. I don't see that anything there has really changed. And I don't see any evidence that anybody in Washington desperately wants to change it. Because again, what does Washington not want? It does not want any disruption in the flow of money. And their answer to every challenge is we'll print more money. And their fervent belief is that since our dollar is the reserve currency, we can do this in perpetuity. So you put all of that together, and I think what we're going to see on 5 November in many places in the United States, large numbers of American citizens are going to go to the polling places. And they're going to watch and they're going to see all of these non-citizens show up to vote. And they're going to intervene and say, wait a minute, this man's not a citizen. And of course, the polling officials in some areas will say, well, this is none of your affair. Get out of here. We determine who can vote. And someone will probably hold up the Constitution. For instance, in the state of Florida, in most states, it says you must be a citizen of the United States to vote in the election. But even in Florida, there are many areas where no one's citizenship is ever questioned or tested. So I guess my big frustration right now are all these celebrations of, we're going to sweep Trump back into office and then everything will be better. These people are delusional. And then you have on the left, you have this crowd that says, well, go ahead, do what you want. It's not going to make any difference. And I found this statement by this retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Vintman, who became a celebrity when he testified against Donald Trump back in under the last administration in connection with all this Russiagate nonsense. And he said, well, I guess it's Mr. Durov, the Russian who founded and operates Telegram, was arrested in Paris. And he said, well, I guess Mr. Durov is an object lesson, effectively what he was implying. And Mr. Elon Musk had better watch out, or he could end up like Mr. Durov. And this tells me that you have on the left again something which I saw back in 2020, this very smug, arrogant view that it doesn't make any difference what you do, we are going to win. And I remember Nancy Pelosi saying, oh, Donald Trump has no chance of winning. It doesn't matter what he does. A dead man could defeat Donald Trump. Well, I think she was practically right, wasn't she?
Right.
So I'm wondering if we're not seeing more and more evidence of the same arrogance and smugness that we saw back in 2020 right now. And I keep asking Americans to wake up and look at this squarely in the eye, understand what's happening. And maybe we will, maybe we won't. Maybe we'll have to go through this and find out the hard way.
That it's rigged, right? I mean, you have 100 million Americans who don't vote. They don't vote for a reason. They think both parties are corrupt, as we do here on this show. I won't speak for you, but I certainly.
But Clayton, you're wrong. More people voted in the last election for President Biden than ever in history. Right. And gosh, more people voted than are registered to vote. Gosh, that was a great victory. He won more votes than Barack Obama.
It's amazing. It's really historic. We're living in historic times. I agree with you, and I think there's this. I think as Americans, we want to be optimistic. And I think we want to be hopeful. I'm a glass half full kind of person. And I want to be optimistic and hopeful. And you hear this soaring rhetoric. You see Robert F. Kennedy Jr. coming out on stage with President Trump and everyone on the right. I saw Twitter sort of explode this weekend with all of those conservative commentators who love Trump, and they said this is game over for Kamala Harris. The swamp better get ready to be fully drained. This is a new era in America. And I get their optimism. Do you buy it, though? Clearly not, right?
Well, no, I'm very skeptical. I mean, first of all, I think both men are good, decent human beings with the best of intentions. Let me state that right up front. I'm not for demonizing anybody. And I think that's the case, that Donald Trump's intentions, as far as I could tell when I worked for him and when I saw him in power, were always pure. The problem was that most of the people around him had very different ideas. They had a different agenda, and they routinely subverted him. I see most of those same people back again. So whatever Donald Trump says or wants, I'm not sure how profoundly important that is to the people running the show behind the scenes. And then there's RFK Jr., who brings a new dimension to this, which is a very positive thing in my judgment for the right. And that is that he's saying, look, the pharmaceutical industries, all the big lobbies in agriculture, all of these things have to be taken on. We've got to regain control of our health, regain control of the whole system that is poisoning our children and ruining our lives. He's absolutely right. I'm 100% for it. And he signed on with President Trump absolutely to stop, this nonsense with Russia. However, they've all run silent on the Middle East.
Right.
Why is that? I think
we've seen RFK Jr.'s about face on the Middle East. That was, I think, a big shock to a lot of people. How did he suddenly turn a 180? Like, what sort of dirt is there? I mean, why? Why suddenly this big flip? And Americans,
well, there are a lot of us that were pro-Israel. I mean, I've always been very supportive of the Israeli state, and they've had trouble coming to terms with the reality that this war has nothing in common with previous wars. It really doesn't. That what began on the basis of what happened on the 7th of October was an attempt to retaliate on some scale to induce or reintroduce or restore deterrence. Well, first of all, we've got a lot of questions now about what happened on the 7th of October. That no longer looks like a pristine example of an attack that was launched as a pure surprise and everybody was overwhelmed and overtaken. That's part of the problem. But this thing has become an exercise in mass expulsion and killing of the population of Gaza with the long-term goal of cleansing everything between the quote-unquote river and the sea of Palestinian Arabs. This is not something I think most Americans would sign on for. And I think that was evident certainly at the Democratic convention, but anybody who raised their hands about it was sort of shoved aside. There were plenty of people on the Republican side that wanted to essentially distance themselves, but couldn't do it, to the point where the Republican Party looks like the party of Israel. And, it's now Israel first. I mean, it was plastered on the walls. Right. Kind of astonishing. I've never seen a foreign flag at a political convention like that in my life. Maybe somebody else has, but I don't remember Cuban flags or Venezuelan flags or French flags or other kinds of flags showing up at a convention and everybody saying, oh, that's great, that's fine. And I don't think a lot of people were comfortable with that. Then on the other side, you have this other wing of the uniparty, if you will. You have Harris, who comes out of nowhere, couldn't win an election to save her life, was totally uncompetitive, and now suddenly is welcomed as the second coming. And everybody's supposed to get into line. And she says, well, we're the party of color. We're supporting everyone who isn't white. But she's got a problem. What is she telling all of the people that are appalled and disgusted by what's happening in Gaza? What does she do about all the people that are objecting to the mass killing and expulsion of human beings from Gaza? These are explosive issues. No one will touch them. But if we don't touch them, they will explode, Clayton, in ways that are bad. That's the problem. So I thought, well, I'll write this and try to promote the idea that we should dig deeper and ask harder questions. The only thing I didn't put into that I now fervently believe more than ever is that we need another party, because there is no bifurcation per se anymore. Ultimately, both parties are controlled by the same sort of conglomerate. What is it? The 750 billionaires, all of whom increased their wealth since when, over the last several years under Biden by 13 or 14 or 15 trillion. It's insane. Yeah. I don't know what number of those billionaires are running things, but they're running both parties. We've got to have a new party that is not hostage to oligarchs, that actually represents the American people. Because I still think you can unite people across party lines around specific issues. But none of those issues were really addressed in a forthright way. The only one, potentially by Trump, on the border. That's clear. But there are plenty of Democrats that think the border should be closed too. But you can't say that in the Democratic Party. But there are a lot of people on both parties that have said, what are we doing in Ukraine? What are we doing in the Middle East? This is insane. We're essentially cocking this gun and making it ready to fire and to drag us up to the nuclear level if we're not careful. And it's game over. It's just insane.
Where can people read your latest piece? Is it on the AmericanConservative.com? Is that right?
Yeah, it's in the American Conservative. And I would encourage people to look at it. It's not, I didn't write prescriptions. I was trying to get people to say, look where we are. Look what's happening. Who's offering a path out of this? That's the question. I don't see either party is offering a way out of this mess.
I don't either. People get angry with us when we talk about the uniparty here on the show, but it's the truth. And I hope people wake up to it. I hope you'll read Colonel McGregor's great new piece. We'll have it linked up in the show description as well. And I hope people are paying attention, because we absolutely need a change in this country. We're heading for absolute disaster. on multiple levels, not to mention the $35 trillion in debt, the rise of the BRICS currency, the decline of the U.S. dollar, wide open borders and inflation. I mean, the list is pretty endless right now, and no one seems to be in the kitchen fixing this thing. Colonel, great to see you as always. Thank you so much for your perspective.
Thank you, Clayton. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Colonel. Thanks.
We have a comment in the chat saying October 7th was not a lie. None of us said that. He did not just say that. He said that it is being used to continue to further death and destruction and the destruction of cultures, economies, the world over. So I don't think that is an accurate interpretation of what he just said.
No, I think what he means is, I could get the Colonel back here and ask him, but I think he and I have talked before about this, that October 7th was well known in advance.
Yes,
the
clearly.
Egyptian. So yes, the Israelis absolutely knew it was coming, and they absolutely let it happen. And
the
that's been
Egyptians
verified.
said so on October 8th. So
that was been verified.
That is what I heard. So we are
and
not
yet
here.
there's just why would they allow that to happen?
Right.
Well, look, they've now literally sent Gaza back to the Stone Age, which is exactly what they wanted. And no, I saw someone in the chat. I don't know what his name is, Johnny Quest, saying, are you guys Israel haters? No, we are just vehemently anti-ethnic cleansing. And we are also anti-foreign interference in United States government. So while these United States members of Congress who are showing their loyalty to another country, I don't care what country it is. Mm-hmm. I don't care if they were holding up French flags. I don't give a rat's ass. I care about the people of Israel not being destroyed. But again, I don't care. I cannot stand foreign interference in United States government. That's where we draw the line, and we also are very anti-war here on this show. Go ahead, Philip. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. It seems to me that if just telling the truth is pointing out facts makes you think that somebody is hating on you or an organization you support, maybe you should look into your support. Because if the facts make it look like hate, then they're probably not good.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I saw someone else in the chat saying, Redacted doesn't hate them. They're just literally telling you the truth. And if that makes you feel bad, then you're just soft on that. So you just need to look at that. I mean, if you're upset by this and then you say you just post Redacted hates Israel with like a little flag and you're like, you're sticking it. No, that's not accurate at all. In fact.
Well, I am anti-authoritarianism. My government is guilty of that. That does not mean I am an American hater. It means I want my government to do better. Israel is an authoritarian government. I want them to do better. That doesn't mean I hate them. That's what I want.
Patriot Mom in our chat and on Rumble says, Patriot Mom. Hi, Patriot Mom. She says, I agree with you, Clayton. We need to focus on our own country. Yeah, exactly. We criticize the United States on this show all the time because we love our country. We love the United States. We love it at its core. And all of these deep state globalists who are destroying the United States of America is what we speak out against on this show on a regular basis. The United States at its core, back to George Washington, keeping us out of foreign wars, being an isolationist. Let us not get involved in other countries. How did we get away from George Washington's vision of that?
Yeah.
So we, at the very heart of it, we support that.
Our platform is keep your eyes on your own paper, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about why you cannot keep your eyes on your own Telegram account, because Telegram under attack for free speech, its founder being arrested. Did the United States government, at the behest of Israel, have anything to do with it? There are relevant facts supporting that may be the case. Also, volcanoes in Israel, in Italy. This has been foretold. What do we know about this? Why is the Italian government quite so quiet? Is it what is the Sopranos, Nosa Costa?
Costa Nostra.
Yeah, is that what's going on over there? Plus,
In
UK
Naples?
misogyny laws. You cannot say anything against women, including men who identify as women, according to new UK laws. So Jim Ferguson's going to join us to talk about that. But first, I want to tell you two things. First of all, I'm struggling with my new glasses because they are very good for reading glasses, but if I look up, I can't see anything. So my old glasses allowed me to do both. And now I don't know what to do.
See, this is why you need new contacts.
I'm not doing that.
After I went through my allergic reaction issue, and the doctor said the number one issue, the reason you get an allergic reaction is because of the solution.
Right.
What is it? Bio? The one?
I have no idea.
Anyway, she said that's the most common one that causes an allergic reaction. So now with the contacts that I've got in right now, no problems with the new solution. So I can look down and look up.
I cannot.
And I can see everything clearly.
Okay.
This is amazing. I feel...
Do you like my new glasses?
I do like your new glasses.
Okay, thank you.
A lot of people in the chat room, though, think you look great without glasses. So a lot of people are saying that.
So I'm going to have to look up at you
All right.
dear viewer, but to look down, I only need them for reading. Okay, so let me tell you about our friends over at American Financing, because interest rates have dropped right now. And in fact, American home sales, grew by 1.3% in July for the first time in a long time. So that's why now is a good time to call our friends over at American Financing. They're a family-owned company that is helping people just like you create meaningful savings every month by a little trick that wealthy people already know, but most people are not taught, which is called leveraging your assets. They have salary-based mortgage consultants that look at your full financial picture, all of your debts, including those frustrating credit card balances where you're paying upwards of 20 to 30% in interest every month. Yuck. So what they do is help you create a loan program where you wipe all that bad debt out in favor of more favorable debt. They are a true partner in helping you and your family save money, and they don't charge any upfront or hidden fees. They're saving their customers an average of $800 per month. It costs absolutely nothing to find out how much you can save. So visit them at americanfinancing.net/redacted or give them a call at 866-890-8434, or again, visit americanfinancing.net/redacted. Well, was the founder of Telegram, Pavel Durov, arrested in France at the behest of the U.S. government, who perhaps was working on behalf of Israel? This is a relevant question, and here is why. Durov was arrested in France this weekend because they say Telegram has insufficient moderation and is widely used by criminals. They say that because Telegram's operational policies, meaning it does not censor and does not cooperate with law enforcement, means that it indirectly supports illicit activities. But Telegram is the one social network that has not played ball in censoring leaked emails and leaked documents from Israel. WikiLeaks and the Israeli paper Haaretz are reporting that due to a massive hack of the Israeli government, Israel is trying to censor the whole internet. Here is the story from WikiLeaks saying because of this, Israel hackers stealing troves of sensitive Israeli data, that Israel is now just waging war on the whole internet. Here is the full and extensive report from Haaretz. Now take a look at this for a second. Look at the date on this, published October 21st, days before the Telegram founder was arrested. And in the lead, it is very clear that Telegram is the place that Israel is not able to control. It says links allowing anyone to download these breached files published on Telegram. Now, what they say here is that it was from Iran, but the story does not prove that, so it's not corroborated. Here is they say who they say the hackers are, that the hackers are pro-Palestinian forces that are often fronts for Iran's semi-official cyber intelligence hackers. They present this with no proof, so we don't know who did it. We just know that it's people with an anti-Israel bent. Or maybe even not an anti-Israel bent. They just want Israel to do better. That's possible too. A lot of Israelis are anti-Israeli government, so let's keep that in mind. Now, later in the piece, we see just how much Telegram is resisting censorship from Israel. It says sources explain that Google or Meta will take down a page if it is shown to be directly linked to Hamas. Amazon will remove a website for hosting terrorist materials. On Telegram, content cannot be taken down with such arguments. Only clearly stolen goods will be taken down, making content claims that only effective route for Israel's legal authorities. The data speaks for itself. According to official numbers provided by Israel, the Justice Ministry has sent Facebook over 40,000 successful requests to remove content, illegal content. They are not pro or anti-Israel posts, but rather content that is illegal by Western standards. Even TikTok has taken down 20,000 posts. Telegram, however, just 13,000.
You missed a word. Even TikTok has taken down over 20,000 posts that were flagged by Israel.
Yeah. So these are the social networks that are playing ball, doing what Israel wants. Telegram is not. Is this a coincidence? How does that feel to you? So Haaretz exposes just how much the Israeli government can't control Telegram. And then a few days later, the founder, is arrested in France. And again, they say because of the insufficient moderation that is widely used by criminals. But WhatsApp is also widely used by criminals. So is Facebook, Twitter, although they say that they are after those things and trying to clean it up. But why haven't those platforms had arrests of their CEOs when they fly into the European Union, specifically France? Here's what Elon Musk says about it. When this post asked, why didn't Mark Zuckerberg get arrested for having child predators on his platforms? Elon Musk says because he's already caved into censorship pressure. Instagram has massive child exploitation problems, but no arrests because he censors free speech and gives government backers access to user data. In other words, Zuckerberg plays ball. Durov was not. Here's what conservative David Sachs said about the U.S. involvement, which again is just conjecture at this point. We're just asking the question because the timing is so suspicious. Using allied countries to circumvent First Amendment protections is the new rendition. Well, is France an ally to the United States? Yes. And has the United States shown an appetite to control Telegram? Absolutely, yes. Durov explained this to Tucker Carlson just a few weeks ago. Watch this.
We get too much attention from the FBI, the security agencies, wherever we came to the U.S. So to give you an example, last time I was in the U.S., I brought an engineer that is working for Telegram, and there was an attempt to secretly hire my engineer behind my back by cybersecurity officers or agents, wherever they are called.
The U.S. government should hire your engineer?
That's my understanding. That's what he told me.
To write code for them or to break into Telegram?
They were curious to learn which open source libraries are integrated to the Telegram's app, on the client side, and they were trying to persuade him to use certain open source tools that he would then integrate into the Telegram's code that, in my understanding, would serve as backdoors.
Would allow the U.S. government to spy on people who use Telegram?
The U.S. government, or maybe any other government, because a backdoor is a backdoor regardless of who is using it.
That's right. And that's a little surprising to hear. Maybe it's not surprising. It's offensive. You're confident that happened?
Yes. There is no reason for my engineer to make up the stories. Also because I personally experienced similar pressure in the US. Whenever I would go to the US, I would have two FBI agents greeting me at the airport, asking questions. One time I was having my breakfast at like 9 a.m. and the FBI showed up at my house that I was renting, and that was quite surprising. And I thought, we're getting too much attention here. It's probably not the best environment to run.
Why would had you committed a crime?
No, they were interested to learn more about Telegram. They knew I, left Russia. They knew what we were doing, but they wanted details. And my understanding is that they wanted to establish a relationship to, in a way, control Telegram better. I understand they were doing their job. It's just that for us running a privacy-focused social media platform, that probably wasn't the best environment to be. And we want to be focused on what we do, not on government relations of that sort.
Government relations.
Yes, that is funny, right? Government relations. You want an example of how the government wants relations with social media? Look no further than this declaration from Twitter executive Yoel Roth. We showed you this last year, dated December of 2020. Look it up for yourself. He admits here that he had weekly meetings with the Director of National Intelligence, Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and industry peers. He admits weekly meetings. So we know that the United States wants these kind of relationships with social media networks. And when they don't get them, ellipsis. Here we are, Fill in the blank, right? So would the U.S. government do this on behalf of Israel when it looks like they're pretty motivated to want to do this without Israel? Would they both do it? These are relevant questions, and we just don't know. It's worth noting that Durov is a Russian-born citizen of Russia, but he had French citizenship, which he obtained, maybe he shouldn't have, in 2021. Russia is trying to get answers about why France is detaining one of their own. And France is saying, we don't have to answer to you because he has French citizenship, and we perceive that as precedential. Now, according to the New York Post, he left Russia in 2014 because he refused to hand over encrypted user data to Russian officials, which he then later on went on to sell. But it's not the Russian government that arrested him. They're the only ones speaking for him. In fact, French President Macron is saying, here's what he said about this on X. This is a translation of his post. And he's saying, well, it's part of an ongoing judicial information. It has nothing to do with a political decision. It's up to the judges. But in France, are you not allowed to know when there's an ongoing investigation around you? Because Telegram is saying he didn't know that he was in any kind of hot water at all. That's why he went to France. The EU is also not about to push back on this. They're saying, yeah, sorry, we don't comment on individual cases or ongoing investigations. And this is a question for the relevant member state. So, okay, here are two more relevant posts I'd like to share with you about this. The first is from the account End Wokeness about free speech platforms currently under attack. They talk about here. Can we go further to the next one? Are you able? Yes. Okay. UK mass arrests for citizens for memes. France arrests the founder of Telegram. Ireland tries to ban mean memes. Brazil, X has to flee because they won't comply with censorship. EU tries to blackmail Elon Musk. The United States, Colonel McGregor is doing the same. The United States, the Department of Justice jails someone for a meme. In Colombia, Maduro blocks all access to X. Free speech is under attack across the globe. Now is the time to fight. If they win, there's no going back. I feel that in my bones. Please join me in being outraged about this, because if we have enough of a backlash about this, maybe we can change it. Maybe something will happen. And I want to leave you with this warning by Edward Snowden, who continues to have I told you so moments. I would say this guy earned himself some, nails it every time, earned himself some I told you so's, don't you think? That guy's book, that guy's leaks, they held up. He says, first they came for TikTok. I did not speak out because I was not 12 years old. Then they came for the Telegram, and I did not speak out because I was using some other app or something. I don't know. Then they came for literally every other platform for dissent, and I did not speak out because, bro, how the heck? He didn't say heck. Could I? That's the entire point. Wake up. I don't know what wah means.
He's just saying, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Okay.
Entire point. Wake up, everyone. Wake up. That's what Colonel McGregor just said. Wake up.
Oh, that's a repeating code. I get
it. I mean, this is kind of a positive thing in a way, because they're fighting so hard against free speech, which means we're winning. We're winning, so they want to take our victory away by getting rid of what we've been saying. Because, like, you can see on some of these platforms, these narratives are coming out, and they're not going any further anymore. Like we're
right.
On
Well, and you think about the journalists that we respect that have a large Telegram presence, such as Vanessa Beeley and Eva Bartlett and people like that, who we can actually get the truth that because of Telegram. So yes, maybe that means we're winning, or they're more upset about it than ever. But let us know what you think. Who done it at this point? There are credible reasons to pull threads that lead to Western governments. So let us know what you think. We have more news to get to. We're going to talk about Italy, whether or not they will have massive volcanic explosions and the government will insufficiently warn its people. We're also going to talk about free speech in the UK, which again is not a thing. But first, I want to tell you about the contagion kit from the wellness company, because, of course, the World Health Organization just declared monkeypox a global authority. We've been here before. Emergency declarations, fear tactics, and then the world shuts down and you can't get what you need. Well, make sure that you can protect your family now, whether it's from a new strain of COVID or some other gain of function type variant of something. The contagion emergency kit from the wellness company comes packed with ivermectin, Z-Pak, Tamiflu, a nebulizer, all in one kit. So you can bypass the doctors and skip the pharmaceutical companies that deny these medications with just a few clicks and get it for yourself legally with instructions on how to actually use it. So don't be left stranded when the next crisis hits. Act now and you can get $30 off by going to twc.health/redacted and grab your contagion emergency kit right now. Again, use the code redacted and get $30 off at checkout. That's twc.health/redacted.
All right. Well, the UK will start arresting people for misogyny.
Oh, sorry, that was mine.
Yes.
You want me to say that?
Well, I mean, I can say it because that's what's actually happening right now in the UK. It's draconian what's happening there. You had a chance to speak with Jim Ferguson about this. He's a former candidate for parliamentary candidate, and he's a journalist, and he's a founder of Freedom Train International. And he's furious about it.
Right. So what the UK is doing is they say they will arrest people for misogyny, and they will monitor your social media to make sure you don't say anything that they don't like. They're saying they're doing this to combat the radicalization of young men online. Of course, this sounds like radical government to me. So this is what Jim Ferguson had to say about it when I spoke to him last week. So Jim, what is this nonsense about tracking extremist men for misogyny? It seems like a very scary, slippery slope.
Well, it's just part of the scary, slippery slope that we've seen since Keir Starmer got into power as Prime Minister in the UK. I mean, censorship is completely off the charts. And this is this whole misogyny laws that they're looking to bring in to do with that is just straight out of the globalist playbook, because what they're doing is they're just wanting to sow more division again. And if he was that concerned about women and children, then he would immediately put a halt to the massive amount of illegal migrants that are coming in who are raping and assaulting and murdering children and women, not just in the UK, but actually in every country where this is affecting them. So I think, once again, this is just his way of trying to take in further laws, dystopian laws, to censor and control and surveil the people, because he's talking about enhanced ways of surveillance as well, using data. So this is bad news. This is straight out the globalist playbook.
So what would count as misogyny? I mean, it's not a nice thing to be, but there's no laws saying that you have to be nice. So, I mean, you know, isn't that a protected way to feel? Aren't you allowed to be mean?
Yeah, not under Keir Starmer's government, except he's allowed to be mean. He's allowed to insult millions of British people and call them far-right, racist, white supremacists, when in fact many people, they're not even white, they're living here in this country, and they're as alarmed as everybody else about the huge numbers of people that's coming in. So I don't think he's serious about trying to protect women or women's rights or children. I think he's just, once again, he's an ardent globalist. He's chosen Davos over Westminster. We know what he is. And this is, once again, his way of introducing more laws, more surveillance, more Big Brother tactics to further their own control mechanisms.
So what they're saying, this Miss Cooper, who's in charge of implementing this, is that for too long, governments have failed to address the rise of extremism. So even having any kind of feeling about women that may be negative, which, hey, we all feel negative about women from time to time. Even women feel this way about each other, right? That's sort of the gamut of human emotions. So they're saying that that leads to hateful incitement, and it fractures the fray and fabric of our community and democracy. I mean, I also would, and then they associate it with Islamism, right-wing extremism, animal rights. I mean, do you not like a woman and then you punch a dog? Like, what is this?
This is just more clownery and buffoonery from him and his cabinet. I mean, they are extremists in their own right. And what they're really doing to Britain is turning it upside down. I mean, we have protected free speech under the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, all of these different things. What they're trying to do is intimidate the British people. They've been arresting British journalists, independent media, for even just covering the civil disobedience and the civil disturbances that were taking place after the murder of the 3 little girls. So this is once again his globalist handlers basically telling him, crack down even further. This isn't about women. This isn't about women's rights. And, I am the first to say that men should be respectful to women, but women should also be respectful to men. I mean, men and women complement each other. There are different skill sets in play here, and that's what makes the whole thing about women and men coming together and producing children in the best environments. So what he's trying to do is, once again, sow division. He's trying to put men against women. This is straight out the globalist handbook. Wherever they can try to cause division, whether it's young and old, whether it's gay and straight, whether it's white or black, whatever it is, they will try to sow more division and upset. And that is what they do. The more people fight amongst themselves, the less they focus on those at the top of the pyramid, which is the globalists.
Now, one thing I worry about is trans-identified men who say they're women, who can use a misogyny law to their advantage and say, oh, you're not respecting me as a woman and I'm a woman. And then we can see all manner of women being targeted for not misogyny, for being TERFs, I suppose. Is this also a concern?
Oh, it's a huge concern. I mean, this is a real can of worms that he's opening up. Look, at the end of the day, men need to stand up and protect the ladies as well. And the ladies should be supporting and protecting the men. We should be uniting together, complementing each other, paying our respects to each other, acknowledging that we have different skill sets and behaving accordingly. Now, that's not to say that there aren't real misogynist men out there, people that I particularly wouldn't like. We should be respectful. We should take care of people. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I was 15, I got onto the school bus, and it wasn't just a school bus. There was other people that could travel there. Members of the public could travel on it, and it was packed one day. And this lady came on, and she would have been about maybe in her late 20s, 27, 28, and it was absolutely packed out, and she was nowhere for her to sit. And I got up off my chair to let her have my seat. And she absolutely turned on me. And I mean, I was only 15 at the time. She said, why did you offer me your seat? I'm quite capable of standing. And she started going on at me. And a lot of the passengers in the bus were horrified. And the ladies that were there were horrified. And oh boy, she ended up getting a hard time. But it's the same as if you're walking across or through a door. I'll hold a door open for somebody, whether it's a man or a woman that's behind me. It's just good manners. We don't need laws to teach us good behavior. What Keir Starmer is doing is he's just sowing, once again, just more division, and that is, once again, alienating people. And I think that men and women should be respectful to each other, but we don't need surveillance. We don't need new laws from Yvette Cooper or any of his other people in his cabinet to try to show us the way. We could do that ourselves.
Right. But in the United States, when people have been arrested for wrong think or things that they should be able to think for themselves, as long as it's not followed by violence, the courts take care of it and stand for free speech. So we already have seen arrests in the United Kingdom for people saying things that the government deems hateful on their social media. Will those cases work themselves through the courts and stand for free speech, or will they not?
Well, I suspect as long as Keir Starmer is in as Prime Minister, as long as the Labour Party are in the government, then probably not. It seems that they're ripping up the rule books of the Magna Carta, the free speech laws, and they are trying to censor people and silence people from speaking out against the globalist narrative. And once again, I make the point, if he's really that interested in protecting women and children, why is he allowing violent illegal immigrants to flood into the country, raping, assaulting both women and little girls and murdering them? If he was that concerned about the women and the children, he would have been tackling that as a first priority. What he's doing here is just sowing more division, and it's I don't think it's going to stand. But of course, he's in with a big majority, largely as a result of Sunak performing so badly. I believe he did it deliberately so that he could hand the baton over to his World Economic Forum buddy Keir Starmer and lose the election to him. But he's in with a thumping majority, so maybe he thinks he can get away with doing these things.
That's so interesting. Okay, well, we're going to have to watch this because we see freedom just being erased in the United Kingdom right before our very eyes. So thank you for joining us. You can follow Jim Ferguson on Twitter. It's Jim Ferguson UK, or on X. And we hope to see you again.
Thanks a lot, Natalie. Great to be here. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. I love someone in the chat here on our Rumble chat says, Lifey on our Rumble chat says, Starmer is a hateful shit. The question is like, does he hate women? Does he hate the rest of Britain? Like, how do you elect a guy like that? Unbelievable. All right. Well, we've got more news to get to here today. We're going to talk about what's happening in Italy, about to explode, and why this is being totally ignored right now with these massive volcanoes under the ground. But this has all been foretold. We will talk about that. But first, hey, the Fed is about to slash rates. We are entering a bear market right now for the U.S. dollar. Get ready, folks. Gold hitting all-time highs. We are preparing as these interest rates will be slashed. That means people, of course, will be dumping U.S. treasuries. The U.S. dollar is ending an era right now. You can say goodbye to the Bretton Woods Agreement. Jerome Powell is officially ending the power and the supremacy of the U.S. dollar, and all of these additional countries now joining BRICS. That's why it's so important right now to make sure you have some precious metals in your bank accounts protected so that you are protecting your family's wealth, and our friends at Lear Capital can help you do that. So we're big believers in using your self-directed IRA. Now, maybe you have an old IRA sitting around or an old 401k plan sitting around from a previous job, and it's just sitting there collecting dust. Maybe it's invested in the stock market, but it's just sitting there. You're not doing anything with it. You can actually roll that over into a self-directed IRA. I have one, my wife has one, my children have one, and that's a way for you to invest in real estate. You can invest in gold, silver, you can invest in anything you want. There's just like a few little limitations. And the reason Wall Street doesn't tell you about it, because they don't make money off of it. They will never advertise this. Fidelity does not have a self-directed IRA. Charles Schwab does not have a self-directed IRA. They do not have it. They don't want you investing like this. That's why you never see it advertised anywhere. Anyway, Lear Capital can help you get set up with a self-directed IRA in just a few minutes. And then you can invest in precious metals inside of your self-directed account. That's what we do. We just bought a new round of precious metals last week. We bought about 60% gold, about 60% silver, and about 40% gold right now, because silver is very, very affordable, comparatively speaking. So give them a call. They're Americans. They're a great American company. Get on the phone with them and just talk to them. They have an IRA free PDF that they'll send you, their report on how to get set up with your self-directed account. It's totally free. Give them a call. Ask for it. Say, Clayton sent you. We want the precious metals IRA report. Ask for it on how to protect your retirement. 1-800-613-3557 is the place to go, or you can go to the website learredacted.com as well. But again, they're an American company. You're not going to be outsourced to India and talk to somebody from India on the phone. You're going to talk to an American. You might talk to Peter. You might talk to Brooke on their team. They're fantastic people over there at Lear. So give them a call, 1-800-613-3557 for your free guide right now. So let us know where you're joining us from around the world today. Good to see all of you. Let's see. Just supposing says Redacted don't BS. They just state the facts. We try to. I mean, look, we get emotional on some of these stories, I think, right? I mean, it's hard not to when you're talking about child trafficking or almost every Ukrainian being killed. All of the men of fighting age have been basically wiped out. That's why the Ukrainian government is pleading with European Union right now to send men back, because almost 1 million of them fled of fighting age. About 850,000 fled Ukraine when the war started. And Ukraine's like, we're out of men, please send them back. And the EU's like, we're not doing that. Sorry, we're not doing that. So it's hard not to get emotional about some of these stories. But we try to just give you the facts. We don't have an agenda here at all on that. So I want to talk about Italy now. Italy is about to explode. 39,000 years ago, massive mega volcanic eruptions in Italy sent Europe into a volcanic winter, and it led to the extinction of the Neanderthals. Worldwide destruction, by the way. Darkened skies, widespread famine, total destruction, wiped out crops around the world. not just in Italy and what was happening there, of course, but around the world. And guys, right now, the very same thing is getting close to happening in Italy at the exact spot. The exact same spot. And the Italian government is sending all sorts of mixed signals about this. But one thing is abundantly clear. Italy needs to start mass evacuations right now, or expect a huge loss of life thanks to a hotbed of volcanic activity. Thanks to 24 separate volcanoes that are showing dangerous signs of exploding. I mean, take a look at what's happening right now. This isn't just an Italy story, by the way. This is a worldwide event, which we'll explain here in a minute when you understand the context and how widespread this will be. It's not just about Italy. It's not just about Europe. Earthquakes have been hitting this region one after the other, showing signs of massive explosions coming. Here's just an Italian news report from the other night. Watch.
Questo che abbiamo trovato a terra stamattina, tutti gli espositori con la merce a terra,
Stores
qua è lungo il corridoio,
destroyed
ci sono tutte le
thanks to
batterie a
earthquakes.
terra, tutte cavolte.
Camera video, buildings rocked.
A Pozzuoli, Luigi ha il negozio di autoricambi di fronte a quello di Antonio, che sta guardando sul suo telefonino le foto delle
all over that region now, thanks to these earthquakes. That is incredibly commonplace. Taurus, maybe actually let me know in the comments below how many of you have just recently been in the waters of Italy, traveled to Italy recently, and have noticed something similar. But we're getting lots of reports of tourists who are saying there was something very odd going on. For instance, Daniel says, I'm currently in Italy, and I was in Carole. I hope I'm saying that right. When I was swimming, I saw bubbles rising up from the sea floor, strong smell of sulfur. Yeah. Get ready, folks, because it's coming. Now, going back to 1948, Billy Meyer published warnings that this was coming to Italy. He's published these in verifiable copyrighted materials in the 1940s and in the 1980s. That's why we've been tracking this story. He's written extensively about the coming destruction of Europe, and what he wrote about is happening right now. You can deep dive, by the way, into Billy Meyer if you want to, the Billy Meyer materials if you want to, and verify it for yourself. Don't just blow it off, but actually deep dive it. I think you'll be stunned. It'll blow your mind. Some of you are very familiar with the Billy Meyer materials. I'll see it in the chat and you'll point it out. Some of you might not be ready for that. That's okay. We're all at different stages of awakening and awareness and open-mindedness with these things. That's okay. If you're not into that part of the story, that's fine. Or you want to sort of block it out and compartmentalize it, then fine. Then just look at all of the news reports that have been coming out over the past few weeks confirming all of this data. It's coming to fruition. Here's a great YouTube channel I follow. Watch her.
Guys, panic in Naples, panic in Italy. Who's panicking? Of course, the residents are panicking again because they heard the roar again and everything was shaking at a high magnitude. I'll tell you what it was right away, but the tourists, they felt it in their hotel rooms, especially in the higher up hotel rooms. They were in panic because most of them are probably not used to this. There's a lot of tourists coming from other European countries, Germany, Austria, sort of thing. They're not used to earthquakes. And maybe some of them have heard about the potential supervolcano Campi Flegrei and decided, despite the risk, still to go. But then you can imagine, then maybe you rethink your decision if you're in bed and it starts shaking. So not good what has happened. So before we talk about...
And then overnight, more earthquakes. Last night, you saw that map that she was showing of all the recent earthquakes, and that was just a few days ago. That was a few weeks ago. And overnight, again, more tremors, more earthquakes. Big earthquake just hit Portugal overnight, by the way, and hitting Europe. And, you know, most of the attention has been on this, right? The mother of all volcanoes, Mount Vesuvius there. But frankly, guys, like, this is the least of it, Mount Vesuvius. Because Italy right now is a hotbed of volcanic activity. The entire region is on fire and ready to burst. And this has been well documented. We'll get to sort of the government like hypocrisy on this in a second, but she was just referring to, of course, Campi Flegrei. And am I saying that right? Campi Flegrei. And this is the Phlegrean fields. It's hard to say because I stick them together. I'm not good with the Italian. But the Phlegraean Fields, which have all of these volcanoes underneath and into the Gulf of Naples and on land, this whole area is a hotbed. And of course, the Washington Post today, Europe's most dangerous volcano rumbles, and Italy and Italians weigh the risk. As the Phlegraean Fields volcano awakens, scientists debate the peril posed by a monster thought to have caused the most violent eruption of prehistoric Europe. Yes, Europe destroyed before. And wiping out all of the Neanderthals 39,000 years ago. Like, you want to play with this? Okay. And that seems to be what the Italian government is doing right now. I want to quote the Washington Post today. A number of scientists are warning of possible tipping point, but no one more so than Giuseppe Mastrolorenzo, a senior researcher with Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology, who's engaged in a public fight with the agency that he serves, arguing it's not taking the threat seriously enough. He describes a worst-case scenario in which a deep fissure opens in the earth, spewing a mushroom cloud of noxious gas, superheated ash, pyroclastic material. At night, emissions would be wreathed in lightning bolts. At night, emissions would be wreathed in lightning bolts. The view of the coastline would be shrouded by a deadly black veil. In the aftermath, white-gray ash and rock would blanket the land. So here's the beautiful coastline today. Fly your pretty drone down this beautiful coastline. Want to go off to Ischia, beautiful island, or maybe Capri? You want to go off? Yeah, destroyed is what's coming. In other words, this entire region would be destroyed. He says even a small eruption would devastate and destroy the entire metropolitan area of Naples. 3 million people killed. But they're just ignoring it. This area has been the stage for more than 70 eruptions in the past 15,000 years, the worst, which included catastrophic environmental shifts. There's compelling evidence that the Phlegraean Fields right now are waking up, ground deformation, which is a common occurrence, thousands of earthquakes, another warning sign, and the ominous rising of 2,000-year-old ruins. Oh, we didn't know where these ruins were before, and guess what? We can all see them now. They came out of the earth. It's like something out of Indiana Jones or something. All of these ruins have just emerged from the ground. Yes, ruins that have been buried for millennia, now just shooting up out of the ground. Surfacing due to all this hypothermal forces right now. All of this points to one outcome: explosive volcanic activity. Why is the Phlegraean Fields so uniquely perilous, though? Because it's not just one volcanic edifice there that we're talking about. It's not just Vesuvius. There's a massive caldera under the water and under that land. And there are huge warning signs: earthquakes, rising ground levels, changing fumarole, which are the vents in the ground that allow the steam. Those are all changing right now. And the Naples Observatory, they all know this. Here's the Naples Observatory. They know, they monitor all of this. And they've been sending warning signs. Airlines have been redirecting airline flights. Foreign offices issue volcano warning to Italy tourists over flight delays because people traveling near this area. So many of you who've been traveling, I see it here in the chat, who have been in this area know what's going on. The government, though, is sending these mixed signals. The national government is sending conflicting signals, quotes the Washington Post. On one hand, Rome last month imposed a temporary construction ban, and a leading minister called it criminal that people were ever allowed to settle in the shadow of such a threat to begin with. Yet Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has also appeared to incentivize staying in the area. She's given in to local politicians and championed a $1.2 billion euro redevelopment of a blighted waterfront at risk from the volcano, including a new urban park, land reclamation projects, new housing, new infrastructure. So she's encouraging people to move there and move their businesses there. Billions of dollars being spent. I mean, it needs it. I mean, I was recently in Naples, and it needs it. If you've been to the waterfront there, you know it needs it. But not right now, and maybe not ever again. And what people should be doing there is getting the hell out. So if you want to have just some context here and understand how devastating this will be, people think, oh, just Italy, it's just Italy. No, it's not just Italy. Because what happened in the 1816 year, the year without summer, this is an amazing book, by the way. I read it last year. It's called The Volcano That Darkened the World and Changed History. I encourage all of you, if you want to read it. It's fascinating. Really fascinating. Like if you're into sort of like Jared Diamond style books, you know, like Guns, Germs, and Steel, which is a great book. It's a fascinating look at the volcano that emerged in Indonesia, and people in America at the time, they were like, why are no crops growing in the United States? Why is it snowing in August in the United States? Oh, the volcano in Indonesia, and led to widespread famine around the world, throughout China, the United States, Europe. One volcano, and on a much smaller scale, went off, and no summer as a result of that. So you think 24 volcanoes in a region that has literally wiped away the Neanderthals and destroyed most of Europe many years ago. Just ignore it, I guess. Just ignore it, I guess. I'd love to hear from my Italian viewers how you feel about this. I'd love to hear from anyone who's been to that region recently and noticed something odd. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this. What do you guys think about this? Yeah, our naval base is being evacuated.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking, like how, like why they would not tell people. Like if there's a natural disaster like that, like why would they keep it silent? That doesn't make any sense.
Money. I mean, here's the thing. They did sort of a test run a few months ago when they had these earthquakes, and it was a disaster. I mean, it was a disaster. There was people they tried to do like a small scale evacuation of Naples. And talk about traffic jams. It was a traffic nightmare. If you've ever been down that coastline, you know the traffic is already a nightmare. Then add in the fact that you're trying to evacuate 3 million people. And where? So someone in the chat says, so you're saying I shouldn't spend Christmas in Rome? I mean, because we take our chances all the time, right? I mean, what are you going to do, right? But I think you're seeing all of the warning signs of a massive explosion. And that's the thing, when you have all these different warning signs, the earthquakes, the ground deformation, and then of course you have the ocean, the bubbles, and you have the vents, the changing of the vents, the fumarole. When all of those things combined, that's usually when massive explosions happen. So I guess you could roll the dice. Somebody else in the chat says, I don't care. Exactly. I mean, you're going to have people like that, right? But they will care one day when they wake up and there's like no food available. It's like, who cares about Italy? Who cares about those Italians is what this
Olive Garden
saying,
will go out of business.
No more endless breadsticks. No more endless breadsticks. Yeah, I mean, anyway, I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating that it's been foretold. I also think it's fascinating people are ignoring it. So that's my thought on this Monday. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on the show. Hey, we have a community. It's our Redacted Plus community. If you'd like to support independent journalism, come on over and join us. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can sign up and become a Redacted Rebellion member, become a Plus member. And like I said, we are supported by you guys and the few sponsors that we have here on the show. And we don't take our monies from foreign countries. We don't take our money from big pharma. We don't do anything like that. So if you want to support independent journalism, you can do that by going to redacted.inc. And like I said, for the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support what we do here. We also have exclusive content and interviews, which are published there before anyone else gets to see them. We also have Natalie's book club in there. And as the fall unfolds, and David and I have big plans for doing all sorts of additional things inside the Redacted Plus community. So we'd love to have you as you want to become a private member there. That'd be great. Love to do some live streams with you guys, join the conversation, and just do some Redacted Plus Club member live streams with all of you guys to hang out. So, thank you guys. Anything else here in the chat? I'll let you go. Natalie just had to duck out to take our daughter to a cross-country thing, of course. So she just had to say goodbye. So she sends her regards. So, all right. Yeah, I'm just checking the chat here. So good to see all you guys. I got to run and pick up my daughter as well. So much love to all of you guys here on this Monday. Thank you guys. We'll be back here streaming live tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. That is 1 p.m. Pacific time. Stay safe over there in Europe. If you guys are thinking about traveling to Italy, please do your research on that before you head there. And please be safe, by the way, as well. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you back here tomorrow.